Wow, this is really starting to annoy me. My video camera keeps messing up. But this is the conclusion to my series on Wonder Woman, and I've gone through her as a feminist icon. I've also looked at some of her villains, and now I'm just going to finish off with a video just looking at her media representations. Now, I've done this whole video already, which is really annoying, but it somehow messed it up. But I'm just going to start off by saying, you know, well, let's go back and look. We had a 70s TV show of Wonder Woman. Um, and it was great for the time. It really worked for the time, for the themes and everything going on in the world at the time. That Wonder Woman had a major impact and became very much a cultural icon of the 70s. And reruns were done of that show all the way till when I was 8, which must have been like the late 80s. And I was watching it then. I didn't think much of it at the time because I wasn't really thinking about things. Everything was kind of fun back then. So the only thing I didn't like was the Spider-Man 80s show, which was awful, or 70s show, which was awful. But like Wonder Woman was pretty cool. As I grew up, that image remained with me in my head, and then it became a bit less cool, like the invisible plane, which looked like a bottle in the sky, and the lasso of truth and stuff like that. And I didn't really remember because I couldn't really properly grasp like what her story was back then. It was just kind of like visual sensation when you're a kid. Um, but I want to do like a kind of thought experiment on this because I think although Linda Carter did such a great job depicting Wonder Woman, I think her being so iconic has perhaps done more harm to the character than good. I think a lot of people don't think Wonder Woman is cool because of that show, and they think that that is perhaps how she is depicted in the comics, which couldn't be further from the truth. She's a much more three-dimensional character in the comics, and her mythology much more dark and more interestingly explored, especially in the likes of Gail Simone and Greg Rucka and even Perez. So I want to do a thought experiment. Let's go back to Batman. Um, Before the animated series, before let's just try and think back to a post Batman animated series and Batman the movie world. Um, what did we think of Batman? When we thought Batman, when anyone said Batman to us, the image that immediately came into our head was Adam West. Was Adam West and the campy pow, bam, boom kind of thing. And let's think, what would have happened if there had been no other media representation of Batman? Um, in future, he had have just remained in the comics. There may have been a few comic writers interested in writing him, but by and large, a lot of comic writers would have just seen him as the Adam West character and perhaps not been that interested. Luckily, there were some fans of his, like Frank Miller, who read his comics from a young age and realized that there was a lot more to Batman, even though his comics were quite campy even back in the day. Yes, they had undertones of what he would be in the future, but nonetheless, they were quite campy. Um, so, um, you know, a lot of writers wouldn't have been attracted to writing Batman, so there wouldn't have been all these classical arcs about the character had there not been this Batman film that turned Batman into a megastar. Um, Now, if you don't believe me on that, Let's just think about another character who, when you look at it, just look at the surface of the character, there's a lot that translates into the modern world. Let's look at the Green Hornet, okay? He's human, he's a billionaire, which means he'll get all the chicks, which all us guys obviously love, you know. He has all the toys. Man's got a servant, like some oriental servant, who's a master martial artist. Like, there's a lot of cool things about the Green Hornet. But what's happened to him? Absolutely nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. Why? Because the only thing that we remember, the only representation we had of him was back when they had that TV show. There's nothing like, I mean, okay, they did a new Green Hornet film, but what did they do? They made fun out of the whole story. You know, basically he was they took the piss out of it because again they just thought it wasn't cool. You know, that's why. But there's nothing. I mean, you take him and you take Batman, and they're very similar. So, uh, oh man, I'm gonna have to do this video in two parts. It's really annoying me. So, um, okay, I'm gonna go on to the next part of this video. I'm sorry about this, that I'm having to cut it into all these parts. I wish I could have just done it in like a few parts instead of this. But thank you for your patience.